Two. Hello and welcome to Hare and the Hawthorn. My name's Kate Ray, and as you can see, to those who are regular viewers of the programme, no Neil. That must mean one thing. We are talking spooky stuff. So for those of you who don't know, when we talk about anything outside the realm of the fairies, Neil goes off and stays in a cupboard for, not that cupboard, but he stays in a cupboard for the actual interview, because he hates me telling people this, but he gets a little bit scared of the spookiest side. So I've got the pleasure this evening of having a guest with me who I met at Parameet for the first time this year, which is unusual because I think our paths should have crossed way before then, but it didn't. So I've asked this guest on to talk about a range of different subjects, but I'd like to introduce you all, Kev Kerr, who is... Hello, Kev, anyway. I'm starting off on a ramble. Are you all right?
Yeah, good. You?
Yeah, I'm good. It's one of those things when I get into Hare and the Hawthorn mode of like, hello and welcome kind of thing, and it just rambles. Just to start us off, to give people a flavour, because we do have people who watch this from a whole plethora of backgrounds. Just to give people a flavour of who you are, could you just give us a brief bio?
Yeah, so I'm Kev Kerr. I run Kev Kerr Paranormal, keep things simple. I've been in the paranormal field as an investigator for about 15 years.
Wow.
So I've been mostly in the residential to begin with, looking after vulnerable individuals and trying to find some level of evidence in that, whilst also the help they need if there is a paranormal reason why they're experiencing something, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Then for the fun, do the kind of haunted locations and try and improve methods and try and look more scientifically at looking into hauntings basically and finding that side of thing. I used to have a website called Parationalize, which was all about understanding the brain and the psychology behind paranormal experiences. And then when I took a bit of a break after I helped start the UK Paranormal Society, and for 2-3 years, and then I've come back as Kev Kerr Paranormal, and basically my mission is to make the paranormal world a better place, really, and make the research better and
Mm-hmm.
do things better.
So
That's me.
how does that look? If you are in it to make the paranormal world a better place, what would you say are the kind of key starting points for review, if you like?
Number one, ethics
Mm-hmm.
is a very important thing. I think how we come across, how we deal with locations, how we deal with people who might have paranormal experiences, how we deal with each other, all of those community side of things, because the paranormal community's got huge. From the time I've started to now, it's blown up. Whereas before it was quite a small little world, and there's only a few. I say there's only a few people. There was only a way to contact people. Wasn't social media wasn't that big and that kind of thing. But and then I think the most important part then is methods in the way that we do things. Um, a lot of things happen nowadays where people argue, say this is a ghost, and people argue no, it's not. And it's like, well, actually, both of you's kind of got to give that reason, why you think it's not. Is there something that exists that we know about within psychology that could explain it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's take a look at that together. Let's not just throw it in your face. And that's what I used to do to people. I'd be like, that's the answer, and not getting quite cynical over time. But since I've come back, I've kind of learned to be very open-minded and very relaxed with everything and say, okay, there's 4 options to apparent phenomena.
Mm-hmm.
And show people that there's better ways to gain data. And if I've done a video, I do videos through TikTok just teaching better controls to put in place. If you do, that's what you believe is happening, that's fine, but this is how we collate the data and this is how we make it better. So you're not wasting your time when you're trying to get evidence. So improving those methods is a big side of things.
I definitely agree. I often wonder why in the world of paranormal we have so many people going out. I mean, hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of people every weekend. And the experiences that they're having and the way that it could be very simply documented and put into some kind of database that's accessible, that could be analysed or picked apart on that kind of level. And we're missing a trick really about how to put that into some kind of database, because there's literally amateur researchers on the ground in the field all the time, and we're not bringing that back anywhere or doing anything with it, which begs the question of what is the question that we're trying to find? What are we trying to find?
It's funny because some people will say we're trying to find an existence of an afterlife, or we're dealing with ghosts and things. Some people might look at it as we're trying to find the existence of another world or another dimension, or more to what we don't understand. I've kind of always had the understanding that the world is an amazing place as is. Just there's, without the spectacular aspects of the paranormal thing, the world is incredible that we exist and things are what they are. But I think people want answers, and especially when we lose people, especially if we don't have that bright an outlook, or life's not that great, we can add more fantastical things to make it bearable and almost a coping mechanism and a survival mechanism. So people are in it for so many different reasons and asking those questions, that all these things that kind of happen and people experience are quite similar. So for me, it's about, is it a situation where that's a physical thing that's happening to the person, or is it a psychological aspect that's coming through? And I think those questions evolve the longer you search, as you go through down the rabbit hole, and you end up in all different parts of research and trying different things, and you might find yourself what would be a happy answer for you and your personal beliefs, which is fine and acceptable. At the same time, for me, I'm a bit tenacious, where I'm kind of like, I'm happy with my beliefs, but I want to know exactly what it is. I want to know how it's made, how it happens. Can we recreate it, that kind of thing. So your questions evolve as you go. Is there an afterlife? Good start. Why is there an afterlife? What makes communication happen between it? I mean, so many different people have got so many different missions, but it's no surprise because there is so many different holes. I thought I lost you there. It froze up.
We're back. We're back.
Yeah. So I think the main question that kind of starts a lot of people is there an afterlife, or is there something else? And I think a lot of that for people is losing people close to you, or it kind of kickstarts that and begins that interest.
And what started it for you? What was the kind of the catalyst for you getting in the paranormal?
So I started very, very young. I'm talking 5-6 years of age. I loved the idea of ghosts. I loved the idea of these amazing things. Not the easiest, like not the easiest growing up situation that I was in. So I kind of found a way of looking at other things, and there's more to this, and it kind of expanded from that. And watching things like 14 TV with Lionel, I adore the guy, and staying up late watching the telly, like, come on here, it's 14 TVs on. And that just grew and grew. I was a believer right up until my late teens, right up until I started to study psychology and physics, and really not in a school way, but in a interest, and then it connecting the dots and that kind of thing, which gave me more of a skeptical outlook, and to say, okay, there are things we've found and explained, and then it evolves. And then, as I say, recently, since I've come back the last couple of years, I've got that passion back for the paranormal as it is. Not an answer, looking for an answer. It's about experiencing those things and enjoying every part of it. So yeah, that's where I am now.
It's interesting because you do get that divide, and you do get like you say, a massive subsection of people in the paranormal who come to it wanting answers because they've lost somebody, or it's kind of a death connection, and I think across all the supernatural and all the paranormal there is a connection with death. However, you get that other section of people like yourself that just have just a real strong curiosity that's kind of not really triggered by anything. It's almost like when you're a kid and you're interested in bugs in the grass and you're looking around and you're filtering through the grass for different bugs and stuff, and it becomes that focused, doesn't it, when you're a child? And it's not a macabre feeling, it's not you don't, you think a ghost, but you don't think, oh, it's to do with death or dying. There's kind of an almost a disconnect. And I think it makes a different quality, not any better or any worse, but a different quality of investigator, because I've found that those kind of people like yourself are more inclined to look at joining up the dots in different areas of belief, religion, science, psychology, whatever. And it's that interest of where's it coming from and why, and what does it mean to us as actual human beings. So did you have any weird experiences as a child? Was there anything, because I know that when you start thinking about these things and opening yourself up, you almost lay yourself in wait for something to happen, don't you?
Yeah, 100%. I've got goosebumps just thinking back. I grew up in pubs for the majority of my early childhood, and I'd experienced things. There was a strange Italian waiter. It's the only way to. I've drawn him since. I haven't got a sketchbook with me, but he's very posh and stern looking, very piercing eyes, a thingy moustache. What's the pinstripe moustache? Is it? Or what's it called? I can't remember.
I don't know. The little thin one.
The little thin one. And he'll be poshly dressed in like an old tux, and he would stand in the corner of my room, and that was it. And sometimes I'd be in the playroom in the pub that we had. It had like a playroom at the back, and he would stand in the corner of the room and never spoke. But I felt totally comfortable that this person was there. So I don't know if that was a psychological safety thing that I was projecting to, or if genuinely there was a spirit of this posh Italian guy. Kind of, I keep saying Italian, it's just because he has slicked hair and things. It just makes me think of that descriptive word. Who was just watching what I was doing, and I was able. As I said, I was a believer. I believed I had some sort of mediumistic ability when I was younger, and an empath and that kind of thing. And so I'd have this guy, and at the same time I'd have things like a strange monster type thing, like come down the hallway at me when I was quite young, and then push me up against the wall. So it was like, these things were happening 100% for me. Now I doubt a lot of these things now, because I look at the psychological aspects of my environment and all these kind of things, and I think, is it trauma response and these kind of side of things? But they're still personal experiences. Any answer to it doesn't take away from the facts of how I experienced and what I experienced in those situations. But I have all sorts in the same pub. My brother and sister swore this big dark man walked past there. Like, it's a big hallway with the bedrooms off to the side, and this big dark man come walking past. And they even got on the intercom to my parents to say someone's come up from the pub. You have to come up. And my dad searched everywhere, and there was nothing. And it's different places I lived. I've multiple different experiences, and I was kind of spoiled when I was younger with these experiences that are happening, which made me a firm believer for all that time, and converting quite a few people to being believers from the stories I had and the things I'd seen, up until I began to understand the psychological aspects and realizing, was that a projection, or was it someone that was actually there, and I'd kind of overlaid this demon looking thing over the top? Or was it just a lonely child because I was the youngest? My brother and sister were brother and sister, and then there's the other one, so. But I loved reading books as well, so I've always had a good imagination. There's all these different levels that suddenly you begin to go, oh, okay, there could actually be an answer there, and I want an answer. I don't want something that sets to my belief or makes me feel comfortable. I want the truth, and that truth, or this amazing thing that there is these other incredible things happening in the world. So yeah, multiple personal experiences. And even as a skeptic in different locations, I've had personal experiences, because I feel even as a skeptic, you have to allow yourself to have those experiences to understand, oh, did I see that? Probably not, maybe not sure, but that's what I'm looking for. So how do I measure that now? How do I show that, prove that, and move on from it?
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about skepticism, didn't we, at Parameet together? We had a quick chat about that. And I'm the kind of person on a paranormal investigation where I'm the last to scream. So everybody else will be freaking out, and my brain will be going, is it this, is it that, is it that? And when I get to a conclusion that I cannot explain it in my head, so I'll run through a kind of checklist, then 10 minutes later, I'm like, holy shit, that's just happened,
happened.
Yeah. Which is, it's bizarre, because people are like, all right, then chill out, we've all calmed down. But I was questioning you at Parameet about the word skeptic. For me, a skeptic is somebody who has a strong belief that these things do not occur within any capacity. And it's about going to an extreme, or using data and information and psychology to absolutely prove that hypothesis. Now, what I said to you, and I still do stand by this, is I actually think you're a critical thinker within the paranormal, which is somebody who you are looking for that answer, and you're looking from whatever strand you can sort of get the next question from, and that kind of thing. You're not looking to say, no, it doesn't exist. You're looking to say, okay, it might do. How do we go about verifying that or quantifying that? And I actually think that the best paranormal investigators that I've ever come across have been the critical thinkers who have gone, hold on a minute, we need to check out if that pipe was rumbling, or we need to know if somebody was upstairs, or don't ask those kind of questions. Is skeptic, the word skeptic, do you think used I think how do you think it's used in the paranormal world? It'd be interesting to find out.
I think it's used very incorrectly, to the point where actually I've tried to stop labeling myself as a skeptic, because people forget that a cynic is a thing. Someone who doesn't want it to exist, and they will do anything, like you say, to prove a hypothesis that doesn't exist, whether that is saying it doesn't exist, it doesn't matter what you say, it is what it is, or they're looking into it, but they're always looking on the one side of the argument. And a skeptic, technically, under the dictionary, I won't quote it because it is what it is, but is someone who's in the middle, who questions. And unfortunately, in the paranormal, because of the culture and a lot of what Uncanny does, where they're like believer and skeptic, it's like we've got these two ends, and that's all we've got. And it's like you really haven't. The skeptic should be the person in the middle, in the grey area, that, as you say, takes note of a situation and then says, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. Did you experience this? How did you see it? What did it look like? You're not believing the person. You need the information to put everything together to go, okay, I think I've found an answer. But again, skeptic has become cynic.
Yes.
And it's, some people hold it like a flag. I'm a skeptic, and I get it. It's a wonderful protective place to be. And I was there for a good few years, and I say that grew into real cynicism, where I fell out of love with the paranormal, because it was like, I'm not finding anything because everyone's an idiot, and everyone's saying all this stuff, and I had this real anger in me that was like, you're ruining something here because you're not doing it right. And then the realization kind of kicked in that, well, actually, I can use that energy as that cynic mindset in my questioning, and be more open-minded and go, that's amazing. I love what happened, to like in your description, but was there this? Was there that? There's another question here that I need, and become a true skeptic in the meaning of the word, not a skeptic as it's now felt and meant culturally within the paranormal society, the paranormal world. So it's, for me, I now describe myself as an open-minded investigator.
Yes, that's brilliant.
Because open-minded is a lot of the believerhood, so to speak. Would you say, well, I'm open-minded because I'm a believer? It's like, you're actually closed-minded because you're a believer. The same way, if you're a skeptic, you're closed-minded because you're not. So it's like, if you sit in the middle, you're open-minded, because if a believer turns around and says to me that every time they spin around on the spot on one leg, they have a paranormal experience, I will go, let's test that. Okay, do it. Let's take a look at it. Okay, this happens. Right, there's a really good way to try and record that data and take that data and find evidence on it. And at the same time, if someone turns around and says, well, it couldn't have been this because this isn't this. Okay, that's fine, but there's questions to be asked in that as well. You're sure that didn't happen because of this, but you're telling me you saw a ghost. But what you're telling me is it couldn't happen because of this and this. Let's test that. And so it's being in the center, and I say just an open-minded investigator in the true meaning of the word open-minded. And it's a very difficult position to kind of stay in, because your viewpoints and your beliefs and everything else, because we're only human, are a very difficult thing to put down. But what I have found in being an open-minded investigator is I have multiple more personal experiences and multiple more opportunities to test the thing I'm trying to find an answer for. But as a cynic or skeptic, I was kind of closed off completely. And as a believer, I was so open that it would be anything paranormal related was 100% paranormal, and I didn't need anything from it. So being that middle, that open-minded, that's what I would describe myself as, an open-minded skeptic.
Perfect.
Open-minded skeptic, open-minded investigator.
Yeah. But I think that's the word investigator, isn't it? An investigator should be looking at all possibilities and should be investigating all lines and all streams. I mean, when I first started out, I was very blessed to work with some incredible people within the community who, you know, they don't raise the head above the parapet. They do it on a personal level, and their data collection was out of this world. I've never seen anybody collect data like they did, you know, from simple temperature readings to log in things like where the moon was, time of year, electromagnetics. They went round and they'll switch things on and off, and they'll check with the EMF and whatever you. I don't know where I was going with that. But anyway, yes, that's an investigator for me. That's an investigator that they take that base. I mean, they would be sat in a room, all hell would be breaking loose, you know, with stuff that I'd be like, shit, this is going off, blah, 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 I'm panicking. They'd be like, we've got to take the data on this, you know. And then they would get involved with sort of calling out and questioning and stuff. So the question is, with all that, what would be the holy grail of, let's just go for one piece of evidence for you that would be the holy grail, that you would just go, that's just given me a firm answer to one of these strands of questions?
So in order for that to happen, I don't think many people have the equipment to pick up the evidence that covers so many multiples at once. Danny Moss from My Haunted Project, perfect opportunity, has the Haunted Hotel, has cameras set up running 24/7. That's amazing. But are we looking at things such as the radiation levels in the room? Are we looking at things like not just the EMF? EMF is everywhere all the time. It's you know, in various different ways, from multiple different things, including just the signal for our phones and TVs and that kind of thing. So that always plays a part in the environment. But do we know what that average reading is all the time as it goes on? Temperature, you know, is are we looking through a FLIR cam, or are we putting up a 1 meter grid with multiple data loggers and gaining that information? I think if you manage to get a dual camera angle shot, you manage to use calibrated equipment for temperature. And I say calibrated, but as long as there is a change from base, it shows something. If it's calibrated, it just gives it that shine to say that's the exact temperature drop at that point, which can also give you decent data to how to recreate those things. You'd have a full environmental test, and that is a very difficult thing to achieve. I think even with the right equipment, the way they interact with each other, the person being in the room, all these things change the goalposts of how you're going to look for something. But if someone managed to find to have that situation and say a full apparition is witnessed walking through the room, and in that there was a drop in temperature, there was an air pressure change, there was a fluctuation in the EMF and the gamma radiation in the room, or whatever is expelled from this physical thing that has to exist to show that energy is released and that it is something physical, then I could say 1,000,000% brilliant. There are multiple different levels of forgery that can happen to create that situation. Nowadays, with like film is just a nightmare, photos are just a nightmare because everything can be, edited in that kind of way. But I think to find that and the data, and it's got the log, the digital log of the times it was taken to say at that moment this happened, that's the closest I'd be to say, I think we found some level of proof. Now, I've had personal experiences that have really tested my skeptical side, massively tested. Recently at Walton Castle for Somerset Supernatural had the most amazing personal experience I've ever had in what I would consider to be a controlled environment, as in non-manipulated. It was mind-blowing. This can't physically be happening the way it is, and it sent me down a big wormhole, and it's the only way, it's not a rabbit hole, it's a wormhole of research into exactly what could possibly create that situation. Show, which is pretty typical, so it's when that's in the public, everyone will see, but it's those mind-blowing moments where the controls are in place. You can have fantastic personal experience that way, trust me, been there. But if you wanted something that you could share, if you put it up on YouTube or if you put it forward to SPR or ASAP and all that, and you've got all this data to say baseline and this is what happened, and we can, especially with temperature, if you had data loggers on a one sort of 0.5 meter square throughout the area, you've got a 0.5 meter square grid. Someone isn't going to be able to walk through that. But then all of a sudden you pick up an apparition, the heat signature coming through the data loggers to say that's changing. Who can go against that? People will, because it's, again, beliefs. People will try to go against it. But for me, if someone could put that data forward, I'd say, yeah, I think you've got it.
Yeah, I think the internet is so utterly saturated, isn't it, with videos of the paranormal, and even a very basic setup can replicate those things. And like you say, they can be faked, and obviously with it being either photo or video, it's very hard to debunk it. So I've got to a stage now with I believe nothing on the internet, no matter how. I'm trying to think, how would they do that? How would you replicate that kind of phenomena? And for me, it's a real thorn in the side of people who are looking for those answers, because at one stage when people were sending, I mean, I used to get, video clips or photos, and people would say, can you see anything in this, or what's this about? You could start down the lines of, oh, it's dust, or was the water particles, and talk them through that kind of thing. And now I think I've got no idea whether you've used an app. I've got no idea of the context of the photo. I've got no idea if that video's been manipulated. You don't need a great deal of technology, do you, now to do that?
So everyone's got a camera on their phone. Everyone's got an app that can manipulate it in some way. There's filters. The amount of people you see who take photos on social media, they're filtered.
Yeah.
They look 20 years younger, and and in some cases obvious, some cases it's not. So it's like, I always, whenever anyone ever sends me kind of any evidence in that sense, and say, look, see, it's like, well, unfortunately, it doesn't really matter. And the evolution that's taken me is to kind of just appreciate the personal experiences.
Yes.
As an investigator, and hopefully along the lines, I might have multiple personal experiences and suddenly go, I can test that. And again, I could create an experiment and put it out there, and people are like, no, whatever. But then it's relying on my reputation as an investigator, as a professional investigator in that sense, as someone who, their ethics are at a high standard, the passion's there, so that it almost becomes well, Kev would never do that. Instead of, for me, I'm not about the fame or anything else. I love going on podcasts and things. I love to talk about the paranormal. It's not something that surrounds my life.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that I love, and it's kind of, obviously I've got Lorianne and we talk about the paranormal and things, but my family aren't into it. A lot of my friends aren't into it. It's a thing for me. So I've got no need for thousands of people to sort of, I don't know what's the way to put a follower, like praise me for what I do in the paranormal.
Mm-hmm.
I've got no reason to falsify or fake
Yes.
or anything else. I want to find an answer.
Mm.
And I might come close to that. And then I can come close to it and go, okay, this is that. But when people send me things, I call it the fog.
Yeah.
The paranormal fog. You, as a serious investigator and a serious researcher who has passion for what they're doing, you just have to like wade through this treacle of, I've got a video, and it's like, I can explain that. If we look in that situation, there's this. Now, no one can see it, but my coat's hanging on the end of the banister.
Mm-hmm.
And if the arm moved by itself, I wouldn't think ghost. I'd have multiple different reasons for that arm moving. It might have just rested wrong and suddenly fallen down. The wind might have come through under the door and moved it.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many different answers. And that's if you were physically filming it at that point.
Mm.
And you didn't manipulate anything. So there's so many answers, and that fog makes it so much worse because you just end up, you can't say to someone, yes, that's a paranormal. You've got a video of a ghost or anything. You just can't do it. And at the same time, you could debunk it so easily because you just say, well, that's camera manipulation, and people go, no, it's not. I didn't do that. And it's like, well, I can't put a stamp on it to say it's real.
Yeah.
So yeah, the paranormal fog has been my blight since the beginning.
But it is getting worse with connectivity through social media and stuff. And I've definitely got to a stage now when I receive photographs, because I know if somebody's got to a stage of sending me them, they have a real personal connection to that experience that they believe that they've had, or the photograph that they've taken. And I just in my head now go, it doesn't matter what my opinion is. What matters is, and I'll often say to people, it's really interesting, but for me to make an informed opinion on it, I would need a whole raft of questions answering. And I say, the most important thing is, has it changed you in any way? Do you feel different about anything, and how it's affecting you from that point onwards? And luckily, most people have said, yes, it's affecting me, and I feel quite positive. I feel like, going forward, I feel changed, that there's something more in the world, or whatever else, which is really good. I want to get back to talking about personal experiences. This is what drives me. I love listening to people's personal experiences, especially. I mean, I've got a real love for residential work, and we'll get into working in people's homes in a bit, but and that's where my strangest experience of ever lay. It's not been within the events and what have you. So first of all, what would you say has been the scariest, the one that's really tapped into your fear? What's been the scariest experience that you've had?
Scariest. So I've got quite a good, well-practiced, like, I don't go into hyper-arousal easy. It takes quite a bit to shake me and make me go, I didn't like that. And I was in, I can't remember the name of the fort near Kent. It was basically, there's four of us. So there was me, Paul Hobday from the UK Paranormal Society, Leanne from the Paranormal Society, and a friend of hers, and another one. So it's five of them. And basically, we had a bit of a theory where infrared is light. So if we remove all light, we remove all infrared. So if you turn the lights off, you still got a light. We just can't visually see it. That's the thing. So it's like, right, we'll remove infrared. So we don't need our cameras. We're going to rely on personal experience, which we didn't do often back then. And we went into the cells. It was me and Paul. The other lot were sat sort of in the safe room, in the break room. Me and Paul were like both seasoned investigators, very hard to shake, very like we've been in some of the most creepiest places possible, and it feels like our living room. And I'm in the cell at the end, and I'm sort of sat, I'm leaning against the wall, and I'm quite casual. Paul's the same, he's in the next cell, and we're being quiet, and we're just waiting. I could feel my eyes adjusting to the pitch black that was in there, and I was completely fine. And then I could begin to see the lines in the brickwork or the pointing appear, and it was like, oh, okay, eyes are adjusting. And then as I looked, there was a shape of a person in the corner of the cell, just stood there, and it was like, okay. So I moved my head sort of left to right, thinking maybe it's my eyes, like shut my eyes, open them again. And it's like, I'm not adjusting to that corner, and it looks like a shape of a person. So in my head, I'm thinking, is it, or is it the fact is a bit of a deeper corner and that I'm just not getting it? I'll give it some time. And then I just felt this really oppressive feeling. Now, I can't say if it was down to, that hyper-arousal situation where fear was kicking in, but it was heavy and it was very menacing, and it kind of made me feel like a vulnerable child. That's the only way to describe it. I felt very sort of, I wanted to move away from it, and I thought this is weird, and it's not going away. And I finally got to a point where I went, Paul, I'm sorry, I've got to get out of here. He went, yes, good. And we both went. And bearing in mind, we can't see each other. We haven't said a word to each other. We haven't spoke to each other. So he had an experience where he felt as if someone was stood right behind him, and he felt, very vulnerable. And it was kind of like, what's going on? And we both outside. I said, I don't know, but my heart's going crazy. I just need to chill. So I took a big deep breath. This is what we're here for. We're going back in. Yeah, okay. Toughen up. Let's go. Went back in the cell. Waited for my eyes to adjust. A little bit more weary this time. Waited for my eyes to adjust, but this time the figure was here, and it really felt. I got goosebumps as I'm thinking about it. It really felt menacing, and it was as if to go, "What are you doing here? I'm going to hurt you," type thing. And I'm kind of back in like this, and it's here, and I'm thinking, I'm not adjusting to. I can see the brickwork here, and I can see the brickwork here, but I can't adjust this shape. And I just got to the point. I said, "No, I'm done." And what was really quite strange is radioing through to the guys in the room. We said, "Look, don't say about anything," and we sent Leanne and Amy in. So just go in there. You stand at the back. You stand at the thing. We're sort of trying to be as calm as possible and just sort of getting them to reenact what we just gone through. And I think it was only around 40-second mark when they came out shaken. And Amy described exactly the same as what Paul had experienced. And it was like, oh, this is, and we kind of had to just calm down. As an investigator, when you get into that kind of state, you need to take yourself out of it to come back in, and you can remain more logical. And it was nothing, absolutely nothing. We went back in. It was, I'd say, as cozy as a living room. It had no feeling to it. It was just completely, but it at the point of it, it terrified me. Now I've had a similar personal experience at Jamaica Inn, but it was complete intrigue, and it was like Lorian was there, the guys from Bob and Joe were there, and we had only gone up to the attic area to take a look. I was like, we don't. Every time I've been there, I've been there hundreds of times, or however many it's been. It's like rarely ever do I go up in the attic. Oh, well, come on, we'll show you up. Oh, brilliant. So I went up there. We had the lights off, and it was like, oh, so we're just calling out and messing around and just really relaxed. And suddenly the whole atmosphere changed. It was like, oh, that's strange. It was a strange situation. And then it was like there was a movement between the two guys who were stood in front of me, and they were like the other side. I'd say about 2.5, 3 meters away from me. I was like, there's movement by you, and it's quite dark, and my eyes are adjusting, and so I'm trying all these different things and going through the critical thinking. And I said, look, we can't see you, so you're going to have to do something either loud that we can hear you, or make yourself visible some way. And it was like, and we waited, but it got heavier, and it got the atmosphere again, and it was like, oh, okay. And all of a sudden, and it sounds crazy as I say it, but again, this is a personal experience. I can't prove any of it. I can't give data. But this shape, it wasn't the shape of a person. It was just a shape moved from between the two of them towards me and stopped in front of me. And it was like, the end of a cigarette. If you just hold the cigarette, and it kind of, it's intertwined in itself. Obviously, its molecular structure sticks, and it kind of does like a wave. It was like that, but very faint. and I could look underneath and I could move around it and I could see it. And I'm going, can you guys see it? One of the guys next to me was like, it's there. And then Lorianne was on the other side. She goes, I can't see a thing. And I'm going, it's right here in front of me. And it's not just a fleeting thing. It's right here. And I put my hand into it. Like instantly kind of like, what happens? And it was like mist. Sort of like when you get fog and you feel that cold and that thing, that dappling feeling. It was like that. And I was like, oh, this is really weird. So I said to, I can't remember his name, the guy next to me, I said, put your hand in it. Because I thought that's gonna tell him, if he can see it. Tell me if he can see it. And he put his hand like higher above where I put mine. And it was like, okay. And he went, oh, it's like mist. And for me, it was again a personal experience. And I was like, I'm so glad he said that because I hadn't said that out loud. And it was like, so for me, it was great as a personal thing. And then all of a sudden it just dissipated and the atmosphere totally changed. And I'm stood there going, what the hell just happened?
It's incredible.
So go back down, like sit down. I'm thinking, I lit up a cigarette and thought to myself, what was that? What was it? The closest thing I've found to the visualization of it is if you go to Justin's podcast and at the background, he's got this kind of mist that moves around. Now, this was before his podcast was released, so it wasn't like a psychological thing that I'd absorbed. But when I saw it, I went, huh, that's so similar to that smoky, whatever the hell it was. And it just went, no idea what it was, but it was there. I don't know if it was psychological. I don't know if he, wanted to be involved and he's seen me put my hand in that position, so he knew where to put his hand. But when he described the feeling, and it was the same feeling, it was very like, huh, there's a little tick for me, but not for the paranormal research in general. But it was like just an odd experience.
It's crazy, isn't it? And when you talk to people about your experiences, it is those things where if people aren't into the paranormal and they do ask you that question of, what have you experienced, etc., and what's been the most frightening, people expect you to come out with, the Enfield haunting, don't they? They expect you to come out with pots and pans flying at your head.
All flying around the room. And,
and actually it's those, I mean, I've had probably three or four experiences and two quite recently of dark mass that are loosely figure shaped. And it's not just the visual, there is something so disturbing that doesn't just come from the visual of it. It taps into something really, it's like despair. You feel this despair when they're about, which is, it's incredible because it's, it's not what people think that, they think, the wailing white ghost that walks through your bedroom on a regular basis is going to be the terrifying one. It's the watchers, those that are just stood, isn't it? And they don't give any form or very little form. And it's the dread that comes with it. You just couldn't explain that to somebody who's never experienced it.
I find, so I don't claim myself to be a medium or empathic. I do pick up on people's emotions, but I think that's a visual aspect and an understanding, a sort of deeper understanding of human emotion kind of thing, not a gift or anything like that. But even so, being this long in the paranormal, you can walk into a place or into a room and you can go, we need to set up in here, or this is where something might happen. And you gain that kind of now, but we do it now. We don't, it's there for 15, 20 minutes and it disappears. It's there, it just appears in different areas or whatever. There's 15 minutes of it and it's done. And then you'll never experience in that room the whole night or the whole year. It doesn't really matter. So, but I think you get a kind of instinctual feeling, or you begin to gain one, where you walk into a room and you know that like this is the possibility in this room because it feels heavy and it kind of it like you say, you can't really explain it, but it's something inside of you feels something. And people might say, oh, well, that's because you're a medium. Or I don't believe that. I believe it's an instinctual reaction to an atmospheric change.
Yeah.
And so I look at things like how high is the ceiling? Is it creepy? Has it got things that might be creepy? Is there anything in my subconscious that might be
Mhm.
reacting to this. And when I don't see that, and it's a room, it's
Mhm.
like, now's the time.
Yeah.
And again, not a superpower, not a medium, not anything like that. I think it is just an instinctual thing you gain over time as your body learns to adjust to those surroundings.
I think that's the key. I think it's and I think you're downplaying it in the fact that I mean we could have a whole discussion about mediumship. I've got
Mhm.
views on that I would love to bounce about with you at some stage, but we are made up of electromagnetics as human beings. The planet that we're on is made up of electromagnetics, and our energy level. And I know I sound like a freaking woo-woo hippie here, but it's absolute science now that we give off these electrical
Mhm.
pulses that come out of our body. How far they expand out, we don't know, but our energetic body is there specifically to pick up, and we call it gut instinct, but it's not. It's our energetical body that's picking up on the vibrations and the energies
Mhm.
within a space that surrounds us. And I think when you've been investigating for a long time, like you say, you can walk in a room and you get it and you say, oh, it's instinct, it's gut instinct.
Yeah.
And I've gone down all those things, but it's not. It's actually, when you do it so many times, you realize the subtle changes within your body that are reacting,
Yeah.
and they are very subtle changes a lot of the time. It can be like a weird pressure headache that occurs, or it can be,
Yeah.
different sensations throughout your body. I mean,
Mhm.
I get, if I need to go upstairs in a building, my top half will go tingly, or if I need to go down in a building, my legs will go heavy. And
Mhm.
it's like trying to explain that to somebody who doesn't.
Just follow the guide of it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's a crazy thing. So following on from that, just before we get into, I want to talk to you about your residential work and working in people's
Mhm.
properties, and then jumping onto the ethics of it. On a follow on from Scariest experience, what has been your weirdest? What has been the one that you've just gone, I have no idea what that is at all?
I think, and weirdly enough, it kind of ties into that instinctual feeling. Was it Woodchester Mansion?
I love that
And
place.
oh, it's just around the corner from me. I was part of Team Impact, who used to look after it often.
Yeah.
It's part of me, that place. And I was down in the basement, and we were doing the I always say it wrong, Singapore experiment. So we fair play, Corinne organised that we had all these different dress up things and for all these different times, and that's the experiment we were going to run.
Mm-hmm.
As I say, if someone thinks there's something that causes the paranormal, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
So I was dressed as a World War One soldier,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like, okay, and there was something that had happened previously to someone else, and they said, I want to do an experiment based on that. So that's fine. So we go along with it, and he said we were all stood around the pillar, we were all holding hands backwards around the pillar, and we we're all men.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't tell you what happened, but I want to see if it happens again. So I was like, okay, let's try it. I wasn't long back into the field. At first I thought, is that why I had that experience? Because I was kind of, but then I think at the same time, I was probably more open than I ever was. Um, so I'm kind of holding hands backwards, these guys, like, and we're waiting, and the guys calling out saying, we've been in this position before and you've done something before. Can you do that again? And it's dark and my eyes are adjusting. And again, I get that, like, something moving over there, which
Mm-hmm.
is part of, it happens all the time when you're adjusting your eyes. But this time it moved towards me, and it felt like it was in front of me,
Mm-hmm.
to the point where I kicked my leg out because I thought someone was messing with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I kicked my leg out and nothing was there. Like, what's that about? I was like, oh, something was in front of me. And oh, okay, carried on. And Craig next to me went, something just touched my leg. And I was like, all right, is what it is. And then something touched my leg.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, someone's messing around. I kicked that again.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. And then all of a sudden, again, from the corner, something moved close. Now, I felt it lean into my legs. It was
Mm-hmm.
crawling along the floor, like Gollum,
Yeah.
all kind of, and it leant against my legs. Now, I wasn't scared. I was a little bit freaked out,
Mm-hmm.
because if I moved my leg forward, it wasn't like it built the pressure. It was, but I could feel that it wasn't like a beast or an elemental, like a lot of people said about this elemental thing. It wasn't an elemental. It was a person who was so vulnerable, and I could feel their emotion,
Mm-hmm.
and I could feel their need for like comfort, like love and a hug, and just like human touch. And it was like, it was so weird because I felt it. I still feel it now. Like I felt it, and it was like I was emotional because this poor person was like so broken and so, but couldn't communicate it. And then I think someone said something, and then it kind of scurried away and disappeared. And then the whole atmosphere changed back to normal. And it was like, what the did I just experience?
Yeah.
I'm stood there as a grown man amongst men, and I've got like a tear in my eye, and I'm shaken, and I'm kind of like, that hit me at an emotional level. It was so insane. A lot of people say, well, surely that'll make you a believer. But again, I don't know if it's the psychological projection that I'm having, or experience that I'm having, that I'm creating. And with that emotional connection, it might have been that. But at the same time, it was so, this poor person who almost considers himself an animal, and you can understand all and feel all of that, that it was like they didn't feel like a person in themselves, and they'd been massively mistreated and malnourished. And it was like, what the was that?
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, I've had, and I didn't know at the time. The first time I went to Woodchester, I had the same thing, but it did come across very sort of gargoyle. That's how it was projecting itself to me. And it sort of crept down the wall, and it was a mass that myself and other people actually witnessed. Freaked a lot of them out, and that was on a team only event. And I found out subsequently that had been a repetitive thing that people had encountered.
Reported many times.
Yeah. And I was like, but it literally presented to me like a golem type creature. I often think whether, where there's this lap over into fairy and non-human entities, whether the only way I can describe it is a crippled soul syndrome. That's how I kind of describe it, where human beings have left this plane so utterly traumatized, devastated, or godless, disconnected from divine, that they actually formulate themselves into looking like animals or gargoyles or that kind of thing, and that comes across as demonic. So when people encounter these things, it's that's how they're presenting and coming across. It's fascinating.
I like that theory.
I love Woodchester. It's a crazily fascinating place, really.
Strange, a very strange place. I adore it. I absolutely love it. I've had stone thrown, all kinds of things, like partial full apparition, table move, all kinds of other stuff, all in Woodchester. And then other times I've been there all night. It's been
flat as,
pardon the pun, but dead as a dodo. It's just nothing happens. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, when something does, just a slight experience. It's a stone thrown. I've witnessed a stone come from the floor and hit the wall. And you think, what the hell? It gives you those situations.
And it's not far from. I don't want to stick on Woodchester, but two things. But it's not far from the burial grounds, is it? There's the Neolithic burial grounds. Yes. Up on the top, which makes it even more fascinating on the landscape of why that might be a magnet. It's got a crazy history if people want to look into that. I'll tell you very briefly, because I'd love your take on this. Well, one of my very strange experiences that I had, and I witnessed it with a teammate. We were driving after an event away up the track away from the house, from the mansion. And obviously it's 3 o'clock in the morning. We were knackered. It'd been tiring. We'd done the event and what have you. And you can only go very, very slowly on that track. No more than about between 5 and 10 miles an hour at the max. And we both saw something swoop that was bright white out of the tree above us. So it was about 3 cars length in front, swooped out the tree, but as it fell to the ground, it looked like a plastic carrier bag. And it hit the ground, and we were close enough to see it hit the ground, just disappeared. There was nothing there. And we were both like, we spent all night trying to investigate ghosts, and what the hell was that?
Happens on your way out.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, it was almost like an owl had morphed into a carrier bag that had just literally just disappeared into the ground. It was
gone.
It was mad. Absolutely mad. So if you ever hear anybody at Woodchester who's had an experience of that track, I'd love to hear about it. It'd be brilliant. So I want to get on to
In the dark, that's an interesting one.
yeah. I'd like to get on to because I'm realizing, time's moving on, and the kind of and I think I'm gonna have to get you back as well to do a whole ethics thing, but I want to talk to you about
Yeah, I'm fine doing that.
brilliant. The residential aspect, and how that very much differs from events and going on events, and
Yeah.
what your views and takes are about. That's kind of a wide open field, isn't it? To the whole, an invite to the whole of the paranormal community. If somebody's being haunted, the last thing when you're being haunted is thinking, what are the credentials of them, etc., etc. So literally anybody in a team is wide open to investigate. I'd love to hear your views on that side of things.
So residential based investigation is, in my opinion, real paranormal investigation, as in, the likes of Harry Price and things
Yes.
that are going into the residential situations. But what kind of sets it apart from events and, combat vests and kit and all that kind of stuff is you're investigating a paranormal occurrence, but you're coming at it from that open-minded perspective. You're there to find out what's happened, what people are experiencing. You're not there to go, oh, that's a succubus, or you're there to find out from the person, are they okay? What is it they're experiencing? Is it something that's causing them distress? Sometimes, but very rarely, I find it's like, no, we're just really interested. I would absolutely, I think I've had like twice in my whole career where that's been the situation. Usually people are terrified by the time you get there.
Yeah.
But it's about caring for the individual and getting the help for the individual if they need it.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't. Sometimes it is a pure misconception of what's going on in their house, or noises that they've heard, and you find an answer for, and they're happy because it's no longer the thing they thought it was. But as a residential investigator, you must remain in that open-minded position. You have to be so careful in the way that you deal with the individual, in the sense that there may be mental health issues that you need to be aware of. They may need a crisis team. They may suffer with severe psychosis and they're unmedicated, or they are supposed to be medicated and they've slipped from the medication. All of these things you need to be aware of without turning around and going, where's the ghost? You don't use the words ghosts. You might mention the paranormal community or mediums and that kind of stuff, because they might ask you questions about it. But you have to show that pure central point. And not many, and no offense to the paranormal community, there's not many people who can do that effectively without causing more damage when they try to do it. So when you get an events type team who are like, hey, here's my REM pod, my K2, here's the bleepy flashy, as I call it, here it is, happy days. Some can transfer those skills, but those people sometimes, or most of the time, tend to be like, it's the same when we go and someone's contacted us because we're a team and we're going to go into the house. We'll put the REM pod down. We're going to find out if there's a ghost here. As a residential investigator, that is not your purpose. That's not your aim. You make sure the client is safe, is not in a vulnerable position. If they are in a vulnerable position, is there something you can help aid with that? Have they spoken to a GP about what's going on with them? It's a very important thing, but also very hard to broach and kind of go, because a lot of them usually think, I'm crazy, and they're not at all. They're having a completely normal human experience, whether it be from a mental health perspective, or if it be from a physical thing that's happening in the house, or an atmospheric thing that's caused by carbon monoxide or black mold or that kind of thing. They're having a known experience. But trying to center that when you're excited about something paranormal that might be happening, you've got to kind of pull all of that back and look at the individual and say, okay, are you okay? And if you're dealing with a vulnerable person, the answer, yes, I'm fine, might not be the correct answer. You need to be looking deeper and understanding it. So you go through interviews with the individuals, you never give the answer on your first thing, because you can sometimes go, okay, I know, I know what that is.
Mm-hmm.
That's sleep paralysis. And
Yeah.
it's like, and I've done it before, made that mistake, is go away, analyze the data, come back and say, okay, what I think it is this, and I find this, and I'm looking at that, and you can bring forward all the information and kind of in a gentle way instead of that's not real. It's a very difficult thing to do. I did it for 6 years. I haven't got any interest in doing it again. I'm interested in helping people and guiding people who want to do it.
Yeah.
But the time, the energy, and the effort, I cannot find in my life anymore. And so, which is a shame, because I loved what I did. I loved helping people, and I loved that feedback you receive from doing it. But at the same time, I just, with kids and life and work and bills and all that kind of stuff, you never charge for these things.
No.
You don't. And that's a big part of the ethics side of it. You never turn around and say, "That's 100 quid, please. I've sorted you out." You're there to help someone. But yeah, that's my residential rant.
No, that's good. I mean, for me, that it's that preliminary. That's a word that I go with, preliminary investigation, where you send out your baseline questionnaire, which puts you on a good footing to understanding things like people's health factor, who lives in the house, who's being affected, past histories, that kind of thing, that can open you up to those conversations. And then taking it from there, you literally can be talking months of investigation before you actually hit the house and do any baseline readings on a property, because once you've gone through all that, it's like, okay, then I think there might be something more to this, and I think I'm the right person to step in and look at that. And I think for me, one of the frustrating things about the paranormal community is it is not every ghost hunter, ghost investigation team or individual is always best placed for residential, a specific residential. It could be that they're great for another case, but one case, may need, say, maybe more female or a more feminine approach or whatever. But we haven't got a collective, have we? We've not got a hive mind as a community, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
If we had somebody collecting those things and saying, okay, then this case has just come into this team, they don't feel like it's, they're going to be best placed for it, and move it on. It's how can we start improving? I look at something like the Fairy Investigation Society, and I said at my talk at Paranormal, very, very good at being bookish, and the top heavy on that. Top heavy on the study side, bottom heavy on the field, and we're heavy on the field in the paranormal and not so bookish. So what can we start bringing into the field to make it the best that it can be?
I think the most important part is information. Like I say, with the UK Paranormal Society, they the whole part of it was to improve the entire paranormal field, or at least give the option to, you want to be a better investigator, this is the way to do it, not bringing forward particular methods or particular things or taking it from any certain viewpoint. It's like, this is the most ethical approach to that situation, because a lot of people will say, who are you to tell me? I've been doing this 20 years. Like, well, 20 years, you're still doing it wrong. If you're not open enough, you've wasted 20 years. So it's like, let's be open, let's learn. But I think it is being able to, a big part is, as we say, separate the idea of paranormal investigation in a location, not hurting anyone, you're just in a building, it is what it is, to residential, to the things that can go wrong and horrid. There's residential investigation, there's private investigation, which is kind of when you've got a team and you hire a place, and then you got like the events investigation, and then recently more and more people are breaking into abandoned buildings, and it's driving me insane. But I can't blame them at the same time, because it's such an expensive hobby, and I'm not surprised there's that part building with the paranormal economy we have, so to speak. But I think it's knowing the difference, and it's capturing people. I think people who are in it now, we're done. we do what we do. It's almost a habitual. But I think we need to get people who are coming into the field
Mhm.
and show them the correct ways. And I've got a lot of on my TikToks, like a child TikTok, but like I make TikToks where I explain, if you're interested in the paranormal,
Mhm.
there's this route to take. There's spiritually led investigations, there's event investigations, there's residential, and it's just a brief overview of what they are, so that people can come in and go, I want to go down that route, and then hopefully gain information quicker, avoid them creating more of a fog.
Yeah.
So getting them when they're new, and kind of going, we don't accept as a community of that behavior. You know, that isn't what we're about. And weirdly, I always put it forward as like a mosh pit at a rock gig. So you look at a mosh pit and it looks like they're beating the hell out of each other. But actually, inside the mosh pit are rules. You're all looking after each other. You're looking out. Someone goes down on the floor, someone's there to pick them straight back up again. But to someone who knows nothing about the culture, they'll walk in and think, right, fists up. You know, I've seen it multiple times. You know, back when I was a little metalhead, and it's like, you know, they want to fight. And you're like, we're not fighting.
Yeah.
Like we're technically dancing, but like pushing into each other and things. And we're making sure everyone's okay. Otherwise, if we don't, we're going to hurt each other massively. And that's what people do with the paranormal. They come in all guns blazing, orbs, night vision cameras, REM pods, K2 meters, and just go crazy. And it's like, I'm going to make a team. I've made a website. I've now got a YouTube channel. I'm now going into this location. Look at me. I'm a ghost hunter. I'm fearless and wonderful. It's amazing. And it's like, mate, stop. like stop and think, what do you want to, are you coming into the paranormal for? What is your reason? How do you want to do it? We don't do things like that. It's not how it works. You know, everyone's allowed, everyone gets one. We get it, mate. It's fine. But this is what you do.
Yeah.
And I think someone being able to do that, and I did always hope that the UK Paranormal Society could do that as a place to go for people to learn and be better and just make it, that's how we should make a better paranormal community.
I definitely agree.
Point.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I also strongly believe that it's about you know, creating an environment where healthy debate isn't taken personally as well. I think that that's one of the things that the paranormal world suffers with. You know, that if you have an opposing opinion,
the world suffers.
Yeah, totally. That you know, you can, debate pushes things forward. So somebody saying no, I don't think this, and this is why I don't think this, isn't saying you're an arsehole and I don't like you anymore. You know, but people automatically think that when they're challenged on that level, that you are challenging them as a person. But actually, we can only progress by saying, I don't think that's right. I don't think how you're acting's right, or your methods are right, and I'm going to tell you why. Because I want you to improve, because I want the community to improve. And yeah, I've seen a lot of that, and sort of, I'm sure you have as well, sort of bit my tongue a few times by going, no, don't get involved.
Yeah.
Just get the
not your fight.
Just get the popcorn out and watch it roll on. That's what I do. And on that note, I'm realizing you said you're hopping onto another podcast after this, and you're going to be crazy knackered, absolutely crazy knackered after all this. I would love to get you back on and talk, you know, a lot deeper about the ethics and what that means, and how that yeah, that'd be brilliant. Thank you so much for coming on. In a nutshell, where can people find you? And are you happy for people to contact you if they have any questions? Or
Yeah, so I'm always contactable. Anyone ever wants help paranormally related, whether they're investigators, whether they're members of the public, anything, I'm happy to signpost them or give them advice, whatever I need to do. I pretty much live on social media now, just under Kev Kerr Paranormal. So that's whether it's Instagram, whether it's Facebook, what's the other ones, TikTok, YouTube, all those kind of things, because it's just a way to put pretty random advice and people could come along. They don't need to contact me to find out stuff. They could go on my videos and look through those. And I just give little snippets of advice instead of big academic write-ups and further reading that I used to do, which was pretty much for those who were academic more than anyone who's interested. So but yeah, that's where you can find me.
We almost need a learners school, don't we, for the paranormal, and sort of a
Yeah, a
basic.
provisional
Yeah,
paranormal investigator.
yeah. And then you get rid of your L plates, and you can actually have
That's
them.
it.
You take them off your car or whatever. I do honestly think, though, on a serious note, you should be writing some kind of handbook or some kind of book to ethical practice.
Well, there's some things coming up, like 2025. I can't let out too many details just because it is a volatile environment out there,
Yeah,
and I don't want it. I want it bulletproof by the time it becomes public. But there will be a more informative way for people to get information and adjust and all that on its way.
brilliant.
But I've got to get all the work in there first, though.
Yeah, never tell anybody where you're at until you're at it. That's what I always
Exactly.
say. Well, thank you so much for your time, and we'll
Thanks for having me.
definitely catch up and have another talk. So, hope you've all
Yeah,
enjoyed
fantastic.
that. And if you want to drop any comments below, as you know, me and Neil go through them. I'm sure Kev will sort of have a look and go through them as well. I don't answer because I'm an absolute technical potato, but we do read through them, and every now and again I get on the platform and I'm able to respond. So we'd love to hear your feedback on this, and if you would like more of this kind of content on the paranormal, that would be good to hear as well. And please, nobody moan about Neil not being here. I know he's got his fan base, but he will be back, I promise you. So thank you very much for watching, and thank you, Kev, and we'll see you all soon.